Our third clause is the 18th and final clause. It's the last clause of Article 1, Section 8. And this clause states that Congress has the power to make all laws which will be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers. That would be the preceding 17 clauses. And all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. If you're finding this boring, by the way, the Tea Party people do not. They might find my presentation of it boring, but not the subject itself. This clause is known in shorthand as the necessary and proper clause. The purpose of this clause is easily stated, but as is often the case, the real-world application of the clause is a different matter. The purpose of the clause is to ensure that Congress has the means to carry out the ends or tasks that are assigned to it, and that would be in the first 17 clauses of Article 1, Section 8, plus some other clauses here and there in the Constitution. Those ends are found for the most part in the first 17 clauses of Article 1, Section 8. The idea behind the clause is that if Congress determined that the activity needed to engage in some unspecified activity X in order to carry out one of the functions specifically stated in the Constitution, then Congress could provide the necessary legislation, provided that the unspecified activity X were not itself unconstitutional. Contemporaneous to the debate over the General Welfare Clause, debate also broke out in the early years of the Republic over the meaning of the Necessary and Proper Clause. Early in Washington's presidency, the administration proposed a bill creating a Bank of the United States. Madison and other leaders in Congress came to the president with constitutional objections to the bill. These congressional leaders argued that Congress did not have the constitutional authority in Article 1, Section 8 or anywhere else to create a Bank of the United States, nor did it have the power to create national corporations of any sort. Taking seriously the concerns that had been addressed to him, Washington asked Edmund Randolph, his legal advisor, Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson, and Secretary of Treasury Alexander Hamilton to submit to him written opinions on the constitutionality of the proposed Bank of the United States. Hamilton, relying on the Necessary and Proper Clause and using the unspecified activity X argument that I mentioned earlier, maintained that the proposed bank was constitutional. Hamilton acknowledged what is obvious, namely the Constitution does not specifically permit Congress to create a Bank of the United States, but the Congress does grant Congress the powers to coin money, to regulate the value of money, and to borrow money on the credit of the United States. The National Bank, he argued, would be a useful and appropriate means of carrying into effect these three powers. And nothing in the Constitution said that Congress could not create a Bank of the United States or could not create national corporations. Jefferson and Randolph both argued that the proposed bank was unconstitutional. Jefferson noted that since coining money, regulating the value of money, and borrowing money could all be done by the national government without a bank, this is really a tortured interpretation, such an institution was not necessary for the carrying out of constitutional grants of power. Jefferson's reading of the Necessary and Proper Clause seems to be that the clause could be invoked only if the unspecified activity X were absolutely necessary to carrying out one of the specified powers of the national government. As a footnote to this, by the way, Jefferson's reading of the Constitution would lead him to some really incredibly awkward and strained constitutional arguments when he was president to do some of the things that he did as president, such as the Louisiana Purchase. And I'm not sure if the Constitution could have survived a long period of time with that understanding of the Constitution that Jefferson would invoke when he was president, that would accompany this very restricted reading before he was president. From this debate over the constitutionality of the proposed Bank of the United States, two distinct theories of constitutional interpretation emerge, as they are known in our textbooks: strict construction and loose construction. Strict construction associated with Jefferson and Madison argues that the national government can do only those things that are expressly stated in the Constitution. From this point of view, the national government should be understood as one of express powers only. And that would be about a list of the 27 things in Article 1, Section 8, exclusive of the first clause, exclusive of the Necessary and Proper Clause. For most strict constructionists, the General Welfare Clause would not itself be an express grant of power. Under this understanding of the Constitution, the federal government can only do about 27 things expressly stated in Article 1, Section 8. Loose construction associated with Hamilton and Washington, who would be convinced by Hamilton's opinion, argues that the national government is a government of express powers plus implied powers.